What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Kuempel with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. I have got a very dynamic guest joining us today. I cannot wait to share his story with you because it's incredibly inspiring and very touching. He has made and lost $1 million twice in his lifetime. He's been on the reality TV show Sellers Market 9 times. He's been in the real estate industry, and he's also a podcast host. And now he is my guest. Please welcome Luke Menkes. Luke, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Deanna. It's great to be on the show.
Yay. Can you please introduce, even though I did an intro for you, can you introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about your background?
For sure. So I was born and raised in Toronto, Canada. Grew up playing baseball and hockey, which a lot of people don't know. Baseball in Toronto especially is really huge.
Oh, is it?
But everybody knows about hockey with Canadians, so I did both. And in 1995, I moved to the Dominican Republic with my wife at the time, learned Spanish, became bilingual, got kind of sick, something I ate. So I moved to South Florida where my father was living and actually went to elementary school in Florida. So I spent many, many years in Florida and other parts of the States. So I like to say I'm like half American. I grew up learning American history and American politics, and my dad was really into it. He was a traveling salesman. So we got to live in Clearwater, Florida, Hollywood, Florida, Fort Lauderdale, and Philadelphia as well, and Los Angeles briefly. So 96 to 98, I'm living in South Florida. I ran a boat rental and a jet ski rental there for
Perfect
2
place
years.
to be for that.
Yeah. So in 97, my father bought a building in the Cayman Islands, which is 1 hour flight from Miami.
I love the Cayman Islands. I love the Cayman
It's beautiful.
Islands. Yes.
So he had a dream to retire there. But 2 weeks after he bought this building, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So I was 27 at the time, and he said he had an option on a piece of land for land development, and I didn't know anything. I was very immature, a little bit rude. My father kind of had the attitude like he was going to live forever.
Yeah.
And I would ask him questions, and he would say, "You don't need to worry about that. Go have fun. I'll teach you later." So here I was, 27, and I had to make all these decisions. But he had me go to the Cayman Islands to see if we should proceed with this land development or try to get our deposit back. And I was just too freaked out, so I arranged to get the deposit back. But I fell in love with the place and decided to move there.
Okay.
And so from 97 to 2008, I lived in the Cayman Islands.
Okay. Wow. But that had to be awesome.
It was amazing. I had so much fun. I got a radio job there. Most of the time it was just like managing this property, which wasn't hard. I'd go collect a couple of rent checks, change a couple of light bulbs, sweep the hallway. I would walk over to the bank with the rent checks, pay my mortgage, and then I would go to the beach and start drinking. Like that was a typical work day, right? So I divorced there, and I met a woman who was from this part of Canada where I'm living now, who was there on a work permit. We started dating. Within 3 months, she was pregnant. So we were pregnant. So now I've got a beautiful 16-year-old daughter. But when we broke up, she moved back to Canada. So I was flying between Cayman Islands and Canada.
Oh, my goodness.
So I could see my daughter.
Yeah.
In 2008, I made a big mistake. I sold the property in the Cayman Islands because I was watching too much CNN. And I thought, this is financial Armageddon. You got to cash out of everything.
Yeah, that's when everything crashed. That's when the whole,
that's when everything crashed.
Yeah.
So it didn't really crash in the Cayman Islands. I mean, prices went down a little bit, but, it was a mistake. But I moved to a little town called Nelson with about 15,000 people. And I bought a building without doing a property inspection because I was so arrogant, so overconfident. In 2010, I bought this building and I completely lost everything. That was the second time actually that I lost $1 million. But anyways, long story short, I've recovered. I was almost homeless at the second time. And I say almost because I was behind on rent many times, threatened with eviction, and I would sleep in my car because if I was doing a job out of town, I wanted to save the $70 for a hotel. So I'd sleep in the car. So I was kind of semi-homeless, not really homeless, but I was very close to becoming homeless. And in the meantime, I started a delivery business. I got my real estate license, and I haven't recovered to the point I was, but it's comfortable now. Remarried, got a house full of kids. It's beautiful. So
I love it. Well, they say that if you have made $1 million, you've made it, and then if you lose it, you can do it again. So it's not. I'm still trying to get my way back there because our business we did about $20 million in revenue for our one business, and we had 5 of them. So
wow.
But actually, at this point in my life, as long as I can pay my bills and just live happily and peacefully and just in gratitude, I'm good, because honestly, I feel like I live in abundance anyways. So, I don't really want for anything. Do I want things? Sure, of course, who doesn't? But there's nothing I need or, life is good. I can't complain. So tell us about this reality TV show. I actually just recorded with someone we probably are. You've connected with her maybe on Podmatch, but Marvita Washington, I believe her last name is, and she was
not yet
America's Next Top Model. So I'm always curious to hear about people's experiences with the reality TV show.
Yeah, so that was a real estate show, and it was a mixed experience for me. Like, I'm really glad I did it. I was just financially recovering at that time, so I was still really kind of short of cash. We had to pay to go on the show.
Oh, wow.
But the deal was we would get the listings from the show, and, it would kind of be a break-even thing.
Sure.
But we had a director that I thought at the time was a little bit bitchy. Didn't know anything about real estate, so they would put us in the middle of like a white rectangular living room with no furniture and say, okay, tell us what you think about this room. And I'd have to go, well, it's really nice and bright, and it's got good square footage. I mean, it wasn't great, but the good thing was it was five or six top realtors, and we had to sit there. They wouldn't let us leave the set.
Okay.
Because they said realtors will say, oh, I'm just going to go show a house. I'll be right back. And then they wouldn't come back because they'd be typing an offer.
Right.
So we'd be like 12, 13 hours to do one house. So the best part was I was stuck with 5 other realtors that were top in the city.
Right.
And I got to spend more time with them than I would have ever got to spend with them. So we made a deal at the beginning. We're going to split all the, we'll still compete for the listings, but we're going to split the commissions equally. So then it was less cutthroat, and we could share tips with each other, share experiences with each other. And I've learned more sitting with those 5 people for 6 months than I did in my entire career. It was awesome.
That is way awesome. Can I ask, what did it cost to be on the show?
Yeah, it was $30,000.
Holy crap!
And we ended up making about $25,000 each in commissions back. So we were supposed to make like 60, but it was a bit of a screw up. Like, a couple of the people wanted to get on the TV show, and as soon as they got on the TV show, they canceled the listing with the realtor.
Okay.
And they just said, I just wanted to be on the TV show. I didn't really want to list my property.
Oh, that's crappy.
So we lost, and there was no provision to deal with that.
Yeah.
So, but it was okay. It was a really good experience. I wish I could do it again today. I have a little more confidence, right? So.
Yeah, you know what? Here's my thing, and I talk about this a lot on my podcast with different guests. Is that you should always just take any opportunity. I feel like if something presents itself, you should definitely see what happens, because you never know what is going to come from it, who you're going to meet, what the next things, what the next opportunity will pop up. So I think that's awesome. I'm a yes person. I'm not a no person. I'm always like, sure, let's do it.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't regret it.
I get invited to so much stuff, and my boyfriend's like, "Man, you get invited to 16 things a day," and he's giving me shit, and I'm just like, "I know, I can't help. I'm just so popular, you know." But I
Right.
say yes, and I go to these events because you never know who you're going to meet. I get invited to a lot of private stuff, like
Yeah.
even though that stuff was locked down, I still got invited to private things, and you know. I meet great people that connect me with another opportunity. And so that's why I'm like, yeah, they're inviting me because number one, I'm awesome.
Totally.
Number two, I'm a huge connector. I connect people constantly, with no like nothing that I'm going to get out of it, but just making a connection for someone else. So,
Uh-huh.
I think that's very important. Hey guys, Deanna here. I'm taking a quick break to share an exciting opportunity with you. I have recently partnered with Scotsman. They have created a crowdfunding campaign building 3D printed electric scooters that make transportation smart, elegant, and sustainable. It runs on energy efficient batteries that double as USB-C power banks. And they're swappable too, so you can replace your battery and keep your scooter. Check out their crowdfunding page down below. Hurry and sign up now to take advantage of their early bird prices, 50% off. It has a built-in camera, GPS, live maps, and an automatic lock. So hurry up now, get in on this. Go to my special link below, 50% off, and be a part of this really cool campaign. You won't be disappointed.
100%. Yep. That was really what helped me to recover from my second collapse was just, there were so many nights where I was like in depression and I would literally have like $7. And I'm like, should I just show up at this thing and buy like one drink?
Yeah.
Or should I just save it for gas tomorrow?
Yeah.
And I would force myself to go. And I was always glad when I did because, you have to communicate with people and so on. And over time, this was cumulative and it really helped me to get out of my shell and become, an effective salesperson again. But there were many nights where I was like, I don't want to do this, but I would force myself.
There is an art to networking. And when I first started networking, I never had been in my previous life with my late husband, we traveled everywhere together, we're very well known in our industry and we were always together, but he was typically the face of the company. Even though I did manage, he was grooming me to take things over and I ran the whole operations and, I was the get shit done girl. But he would do most of the networking, right? And I watched him and watch him work the room, whatever. And, I'm very personable, so I always talk to people. But now in this stage of my life, and now I had to learn how to network on my own. And at first it's a little off-putting. And you're right. It's times you're just like, oh, I don't want to go. So maybe it's gonna be a little uncomfortable. You're gonna have to put yourself out there. But once you figure out how to like really just be comfortable in that setting and you know how to self-promote in a good way, it's so beneficial. So beneficial.
Totally.
I feel like
Yeah.
what we're doing, this is a form of networking.
Yes.
Having a podcast, talking to different people, I'm already trying to think like, who can I introduce him to now? Like, who's my, I don't know if you think like that, but that's how I think when I'm talking to someone.
Yeah, totally. That's my initial podcast when it was local. That's how I grew it. Was I would say at the end of every episode, who would you like to nominate to come on the show?
Yeah.
And there was only two criteria. So it was called I Love Kelowna, which is my city.
Okay.
So the person had to agree with the sentiment. If they hate Kelowna, they can't come on the show.
Right.
So they have to agree I love Kelowna. And the other one was who would you enjoy listening to me interview?
Yeah.
Who would be a person that you would like to hear? So it was really simple, but I met over 100 people that I never would have met just by asking for the introduction.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So this is now, so you have, tell us about your podcast. It's what Newtown Big Dreams. So this is your second one then.
That's right. So it's the same show, but it's evolved and I changed the name. So in 2005 in the Cayman Islands, I got a radio job, which was just a coincidence. They started a brand new radio station. Two of my best friends were on the morning show. They had a woman who lasted a week. They fired her for some reason. So they said on the radio, hey, anybody who wants to come on the show, just give us a call. We'll have you on as a guest. So I went on the show and I was super nervous, but because we were best friends and we would go out drinking together and we had this vibe, this sense of humor, it was a total hit.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. Now, when I split up with my ex, I was flying to Canada to see my daughter and they said, you can't, have a regular show because, you can't just keep coming and going.
Right.
So I started a podcast in 2006 under like a pen name, and it was about relationships and everything, and I got really good. But when I bought this bar and restaurant building in 2010, I gave up the podcast, which was another kind of regret because it was really growing. So my self-esteem took a huge hit, and I tried to start a podcast and I quit, and I just wasn't comfortable. So in 2018, I decided, I listened to a Gary Vaynerchuk audiobook, and he said realtors should start a podcast, become the expert in your town, interview local businesses. And I found I was really comfortable asking questions. I wasn't so comfortable like giving a monologue or a speech, but I was really comfortable asking questions, and it was great. So in 2020, we had the COVID thing, and people didn't want to come to my house for the show.
Yeah.
So I took a course while I was sitting around, trying to figure out what to do. I took a course with a guy named Brian Rose, who has a podcast called London Real. Okay. He's an American who moved to London. And he taught me a lot of stuff. But one thing he said was, you got to expand past your little city.
Yeah.
So he said, find out what's unique about your show. So what was unique about my show was that people, 95% of the guests have moved to their town from someplace else.
Okay.
And so we would always start the show with, tell us the story of you coming to Kelowna.
Sure.
And there were so many amazing stories, like just incredible. One person had a car accident just driving through across Canada. They were stuck in the hospital for 2 months.
Oh my goodness.
And their family was here visiting them.
Yeah.
And they fell in love with the city, and they say, you know what, we should move here. Oh, and they ended up moving here, like the entire family. So just all kinds of amazing stories. So I thought, that's what I love to talk about. I want to hear about your big move. I've moved 5 times.
Yeah.
Five different countries, 10 cities, where as an introverted person, believe it or not, I had to start from scratch. I had to start a new business, start a new social life, start a new dating life in many cases.
Yeah.
So it's called New Town Big Dreams. And that's what it's about. It's entrepreneur based. We talk about, business and sales and marketing, negotiation, all that stuff. But every episode starts with a geography lesson.
Awesome.
So tell us about Los Angeles. Why did you move there? What's the story? What's it like? What's happening with the COVID lockdowns?
Yeah.
What's it like living in that city?
Sure.
Right. So.
I love that. Oh, that's awesome. So you probably have a lot of people you can talk to, and because a lot of my guests, I don't know about you, they've been all over. They've moved all over. I mean, yeah. Their stories are fascinating. I wish I could have moved all over, but I love my family too much. I'm kind of I'm the oldest of 5. Everybody's here. My mom's one of 6. Most of my aunts and uncles are here. So I don't know if I'd ever move away unless it's to like somewhere warm, because Chicago weather sucks.
Right. So, but I mean, you've seen changes with Chicago, right? So over your lifetime, we could talk about, how much Chicago has changed.
Sure. Yeah. I could talk about that. Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Where can people support you? So are you streaming on all the different platforms with your podcast?
Yeah. So I'm not doing video or YouTube yet, but I'm going to soon. But all the podcast platforms, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. If you want to go directly to the website, it's newtownbigdreams.buzzsprout.com.
Awesome. And so the best way for people to support you is just to go check out your show and subscribe and all that good stuff. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Any last words of wisdom or advice that you'd like to offer the audience before we wrap things up?
Well, for me, when I was down in the dumps, it was my daughter that kept me going. She was 6-7 years old at the time. And I think everybody needs something to look forward to. No matter how bad things get, you have to have hope. You have to have some way to find some optimism to keep you going. And then it becomes a little bit easier to just do what you need to do each day. You know, like obviously eat and bathe, but the networking and, you know, taking a course and just trying to improve meditation, whatever you can do, when you have hope, then you're going to do the little things that you need to do each day.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love that. I agree. Find the optimism. It's very, very important. Don't let that negativity drag you down. Luke, thank you so much for being a guest. We didn't even get to any of your questions, so that means that we're gonna have to do I'll have to do a round 2 or a follow up at some point to see how things are going for you and hear how you are continually on the rise. Right?
I would love to. Love to. Awesome. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Kuempel, with Label Free Podcast. Wow, I can't talk today. To live your best life, you must live label free. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, follow, all that good stuff. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.